there is a fundamental misunderstanding that what a lot of families are primarily concerned about is tax. It isn't, actually, because bear in mind, a large proportion of the clients we advise come from low tax or no tax jurisdictions. And the concerns they have range from succession planning to efficient business structuring to protecting their information from inappropriate use or misuse or theft, and which can involve actually even putting their families in danger in certain jurisdictions. So I think that's a very important point to bear in mind. And again, looking at the use of structures, trusts, we go back 500 years in this country. Trusts have been used to hold vast swathes of the land in this country and to plan for that type of generational planning and preservation of wealth. This is what a lot of these structures are designed for. And I think the discussion around tax does sort of always come to the forefront, but actually it is not often the most important or by any means the only motivating factor for creating these structures. But certainly, because of the register, families have become, families who may otherwise have very little connection to the UK by virtue of owning a piece of real estate in London through a UK company, have now got their information publicly available on a register. Clients feel nervous about that. Mm-hmm. I don't want my neighbours knowing what I own, and a wealthy family, in a sense, is much more sensitive about that information than I would be.
Sorry, I was going to say, and that's why the Jersey model is so good, because it means that all of us, the intermediary community that look after a particular family, we are all together the gatekeeper in relation to that particular relationship and to understanding the source of funds and knowing that it's legitimate activity that's taking place and that we align ourselves with wrongdoing if we are not scrutinising what we're seeing and independently verifying who we're dealing with. And this must be, I think, as Jason's indicated, the best way to do it. It affords confidentiality to clients who wish to use the island, but also some degree of explanation and information in the event it's needed by authorities. So to me, it is the best of both worlds, and it works very well because I think we generally, we do have inquiries and they don't go any further as soon as the level of information that's required is explained, and those people go elsewhere and they find it very difficult to come into Jersey, which is what Jason's confirmed.
I mean, that's what I guess. One of the other conclusions from your research, though, Jason, is that any system is only as good as the people implementing it. And these more fundamental issues around the onshore, the OECD locations and the US, in particular, the US, it seems, the fact that you don't have the licensed companies doing this in the first place. I mean, how can you shift the focus onto that, because it seems like people have so little awareness of the problems there?
I think it is an uphill struggle, but not an impossible one. I think that there is an increasing level of consciousness that as international standards are ratcheted up and as the United States stays at the same low level of beneficial ownership regulation, that of course that gap increases, the vulnerability increases, and you have an increasing use of shell companies for nefarious purposes by a variety of people, from Victor Boot, the arms trader, to the Sinaloa cartel, to all sorts of other ones. And I think there is a sort of a patient chipping away process of trying to build awareness there. And I think in some ways some of the best evidence comes from the United States government itself. In fact, the United States law enforcement community is very, very dissatisfied with the state of affairs there because, of course, it makes their job so much harder in following the money when they're pursuing criminals. Unfortunately, they haven't yet been able to overcome the opposition of the state registries, corporate law being a state rather than federal responsibility, but then a number of powerful industry groups that have so far stymied attempts at reform.